Welcome back to Supreme Growth, the channel where we talk about tools, systems, and ideas that can help you take your life to the next level. Today, I wanted to talk about my 5-MeO DMT experience. For those of you that don't know what 5-MeO DMT is, it's one of the most powerful substances known to man. It's an entheogen, which is a plant or a drug that produces a mystical experience when people ingest it. And it's also, it's known as a psychedelic, but it's unlike any other psychedelic. And it's a very powerful medicine, a very powerful substance that can really change your life. And although it is found in various plants in nature, most often it's extracted from toad venom. That's where there's these toads called the Bufo alvarius or the Sonora desert toad, and they're found in southwestern parts of the United States and in Mexico. And what they do is they catch these toads and they kind of poke them a little bit on the side, and these toads extract this venom. And then when this venom is dried, it can be smoked. And this is how 5-MeO DMT is most often used. So I want to just run down and give you my experience, how I came to know about this substance and how I came to use it and how it's impacted my life. So for those who know me, know that I'm a big proponent of psychedelics. I think psychedelics, if used properly, are very powerful for changing people's lives and impacting them in positive ways. So one of my most popular videos that I've done has been on ayahuasca and my experience with it. And more recently, I came in contact with this powerful medicine, and I thought the time is right to, share my experience and open up about it, and, maybe just kind of share this and open other people's minds to what this is and how it works. So, I'm interested in psychedelics, so I've done my fair amount of research on different psychedelic drugs and plant medicines. And 5-MeO DMT is something that, it came up, and I've researched it and I've seen a little bit about it, and I heard kind of the effects that it produces. I've, researched on the safety of it and things like that. But I never really dived super deep and read a bunch of people's experiences. So my knowledge of it was fairly limited. But, I was open to, trying it. And if the opportunity ever came about, as, I'm fairly open to use psychedelic drugs because I believe, or psychedelic medicines, I don't even like to call them drugs because it gives it such a negative connotation. But the opportunity came. One day I just got a call from a friend that told me that there's a shaman in town and, for a couple of days, and that she recently had a really powerful experience with the shaman, with a ceremony. And I asked her, I was like, what do they work with? And she told me this is the 5-MeO DMT. And, recently I was just reading about it, so I was kind of curious about this. And I asked her, I'm like, well, isn't this the substance that makes you experience death? Because from the very few accounts of it that I read, that's what I kind of got from it, was that it makes you feel, it makes you experience death. And she told me, she's like, I did die, but it was blissful. And she was telling me about her experience the night before because she had just participated in one of the ceremonies. And she gave me this opportunity. She said, listen, he's doing he's doing these ceremonies today. This is the last day before he leaves. It goes back to his country. Would you like to participate? And it was it was right on the spot that day. And I was just all right, let's do it. And I called up one of my, and she asked if anybody else that I knew wanted to do it, they could also come. So I called one of my friends, and he was like, oh, he's like, no, he's like, that's the substance, that's the drug that makes you feel like you die. I'm not doing that. And I called him because we've done other psychedelics together before, so I figured he might be interested, but he wasn't. And I called another friend, he didn't pick up, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go do it myself. So I was out in the Poconos at the time. I drove out to the city, and I was supposed to. My friend gave me an address to go meet the shaman. I have no idea. For whatever reason, I thought I was going to meet the shaman one-on-one to do this, and I'm kind of nervous. I get to the city, and it was still kind of early. I still had a couple of hours. So I was just hanging with my girl, and just, kind of trying to get through the time, past the time. And the time finally came, and I'm walking to the apartment. I get in, I ring the bell, I get into the apartment, open the door, and I'm greeted by a guy, and I think he's a shaman, but it turns out that it's actually his apartment. I was like, all right, so we're going to somebody else's apartment, and the shaman is coming here. So it was this guy and his friend, and I was just talking with them, and then more people were coming. I'm like, oh, is this a shaman? This is a shaman. And it's like the shaman was running late or whatever, so other people came. So I already felt better because the environment was kind of, it was somebody's house, and it was nice and friendly, and I was kind of just talking to everybody. So I felt better than when I initially thought I was going to meet the shaman one-on-one, and it was going to be like this crazy experience, like somewhere very low-key, weird. So I kind of felt better that there were other people there. And then finally the shaman ends up coming, and he says hi to all of us. And I'm trying to figure out how this thing goes, because I've never participated in a 5-MeO DMT ceremony before. And it turns out that each person goes individually, so they take turns. And everybody's experience is about 20 minutes. So my girl was waiting for me close by, so I was like, I figured if everybody goes, she's gonna be waiting so long. I thought I was the only one meeting the shaman, so I was like, it's gonna be our experience at tops, and I'll be out. But we were already been waiting like an hour just for him to get there. So they asked me like, oh, do you want to just go first? Because I told them, my girl's waiting. Like, how is this gonna go? They're like, do you want to go first? And I was like, all right. So out of all the people that were there to partake in this ceremony, I was gonna be the first one to go. So basically, I ended up kneeling down in front of the shaman, and the shaman doesn't even speak any English. So there was somebody translating, but basically he was just asking me like, have you ever done psychedelics before? And I was like, yeah, I've done my fair share of psychedelics. And he's like, all right, good. He's like, but he's like, psychedelics are mental. Most psychedelics are mental. He's like, this one is mental, physical, and spiritual in one. And when he said that, for some reason that really resonated with me, the spiritual part. Like, I don't know why. And then he proceeded to hand me the pipe with the dried toad venom in it. And as I held the pipe, I was supposed to read off of a paper that basically had a message of love and acceptance and forgiveness. It was basically like, oh, I forgive myself for anything I've done. I forgive others for anything they have done to me. I know everybody's trying their best. So it was like this very positive message meant to prime you to, I guess, have a positive experience. As soon as I finished reading the message, he told me, he's like, listen, I'm gonna light it, and you just keep hitting it. Keep hitting it while I'm lighting, keep hitting it, keep pulling in the vapor, and then hold it in for as long as you can, basically like 10 seconds. Hold it for 10 seconds. So I was like, okay. And he lit it up, and I'm just hitting this pipe, blowing, pulling in the vapor. And I'm blowing it. Like, already felt like, I couldn't take any more of the smoke. And he was like, okay. And he's like, hold it, now hold it. And he's like counting down, like 10, 9, counting down. And I'm just holding it. And last thing I remember is just blowing it out. And that's it. And I was gone. it's so crazy how you go from normal waking state of consciousness to completely a different world. It's like everything that I knew completely just fell away. My perception of the world, my perception of what I knew life to be, and my life, all of that crumbled, and it was just like this blackness. And it was, I started to get like a very intense fear. And the first thought that popped up into my head was, oh, okay, so all of this was a lie. Like whatever I knew life to be, it's not true. This whole time I was living this life, and none of this is true. Like this was all fake, and it just all fell away. So it was a very intense fear, and you start thinking like, what did I do? Where am I? What's going on? You can't even process that you actually done, a drug, that you ingested something. Like that's how powerful it is. Like you can't even sit there and be and trying to rationalize like, oh yeah, I just took something, like I'll be better in X amount of time. You can't even, it's too powerful to have to, to think like that. So, I'm kind of resistant. I'm just like, oh, like, like, why is this happening? Like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this, and that fear, slowly that fear kind of subsided. It kind of melted away. And then all of a sudden I just came to such a peaceful state. It was just so peaceful and so beautiful. And I felt like I was part of everything. I felt like I was divine consciousness. I felt like I was God. I don't know how else to explain that. Then I just felt like there was that one force in the universe, that divine consciousness, and I was that. I felt like I was all knowing, like I had figured out everything, like I had unlocked the biggest mystery of life, and now I was this embodiment. I felt as if I had died, and now this is what I became. I became one with everything. I became one with the universe, one with God, whatever you want to call it. But that's how I felt. And it was just extreme bliss. And there was like at that point, there was no thoughts. It was just being. It was just pure being and pure love. That divine consciousness, it felt very much like just pure love. That's the only way to explain it. That's the feeling that you get. And, as that kind of, I started coming back to reality or whatever, coming back to my body, because at that point I was completely out of my body, out of my mind. I was somewhere else. So as I'm coming back and I started to feel my body, the sensation started to spread through my body. I felt very euphoric in my body. And, I'm hearing like the shaman was singing a song, and it kind of felt like I was coming back to life at that point. It felt like I had died and I was coming back to life. And then somebody's massaging my feet, and he's like singing this song in Spanish, and it felt like I was reborn. It was very powerful. It felt amazing to come back to this world, and like you're accepted and you're loved, and you're coming back. And I also, this is, I guess I'll mention this later, but then I'm coming back, and as I'm like coming to my senses, I just I'm processing what just happened. I'm like, wow, I just found out the greatest secret of life. Like, this is the secret to life. Like, this is what life really is. This is a secret that's been hidden in a toad, in the venom of a toad. And that somehow I was led down this path where I was able to ingest this toad venom and see the truth, and see the greatest truth in life. And as I was waking up, I'm just feeling this, like, the only way to say it was an experience of enlightenment. And this enlightenment, this great truth that I experienced, was that our normal waking life that we experience on a day-to-day basis is all an illusion. And the real truth of who we really are deep down inside is we're this divine consciousness, we're this pure love. That's what we really are, and we're not able to see it on our normal day-to-day basis. Most of us, at least, aren't able to see it, and we're kind of stuck in this. It kind of felt like the Matrix. It kind of felt like we were stuck in this Matrix, and we're not really aware of what we really are, who we really are, and that very intense feeling, and this very intense realization that at that moment, that's, you fully believe it. Like, there's no denying it, and as I'm coming to my senses, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, how can this be? With like tears in my eyes. And, I'm waking up, and the shaman's there, and the shaman's helper, and my friend came. I didn't even know she was going to come. She's there. And I'm just like, waking up, and I just see everybody above me, and I'm just like, oh, I'm like coming back to life. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. It was just insane. And, I'm just giving I get up, and I'm just giving everybody hugs, and I'm like, oh. And then the other people are like, yo, how are you? Are you good? And I'm like, oh, just give me a hug. And I'm hugging everybody, and they're like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it was the most amazing experience. I'm like, you're going to love it, because, I knew they were going next. And they're like, dude, you were screaming, make it stop. That, that you didn't like it. You were screaming like on top, like really loudly. And I had no recollection of that, because I was completely gone. And although I did have those thoughts, those thoughts of resistance and fear and like regret, and like, oh, I regret doing this. Like, they were like, you're screaming, I regret doing this, make it stop. And like, I was having those thoughts in my head, but I wasn't actually aware that I was verbalizing these things. And apparently I was. So the guy whose apartment it was, he was like, oh, he's like, I was like scared, like somebody's gonna come, and like, I'm like scared that something's gonna happen to you. And he's like, then I'm responsible for it. And that's just how powerful it is, that you're not even aware of some of the things that are going on. So a little bit afterwards, I had, it was a great, amazing realization. And it was like, I guess I've had like a mystical experience before with ayahuasca, but this was on like another level, and it was just so powerful. And it was just like, I don't know, it's very hard to describe. But afterwards, some of the, like the next day, I think I was like in the gym, and I was just like, oh, I just felt like the Matrix. I was just looking at everybody. I'm like, this is like an illusion. Everybody's just on autopilot. People are not aware of who they really are, of like the truth. They're not aware of the truth. Like, that's just the feeling I had. And then all this other stuff started coming to me, and I wasn't even sure if I experienced that or if I was just making it up at that point. But then it was like, oh, like stuff started to come to me that, oh, the shaman came to me during the trip, and he was asking me, he's like, are you ready to go down this road? And it was kind of like this hard decision where I had to make this decision where it's like, am I going to be this spiritual warrior? Am I going to go down this path of truth? And it's not going to be an easy path, but it's going to be very rewarding. It's like, and he was asking me, like in my trip, like, are you ready? Do you want to do this? And it's like, and I was like, yes. So this came to me afterwards, and I don't know if that happened or if it didn't, if that was part of the trip, because that's another thing. It's so powerful that so much happens in a short amount of time that you can't even remember a lot of it. And I think the trip lasts, around 20 minutes. For me, it felt like 5 minutes. Some people say it feels like hours. Everybody's different depending on your perception of time. I'm not even sure how long it really lasted, but it felt like 5 minutes. It was probably closer to, 15 or 20. And, the days after I was having, it disrupts your sleep. So I wasn't able to sleep too great for like a little while afterwards. And I would get these like flashbacks of like the taste of the medicine. Like, I would just randomly be walking, and I would taste it in my mouth, and I'm like, oh, wow. And then, I would just get these sensations and these feelings. And it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like hallucinations per se, but it was just like these sensations and these feelings and these messages that I was getting for, days and maybe even weeks afterwards. So that was pretty crazy because I never experienced something so powerful that it would still affect you days or even weeks afterwards in some ways. And some of the other things I really was starting to think about death. It really made me think about death a lot, and it was kind of overwhelming because I never thought about death. And I think it was the combination of the timing, because at that time, this was maybe 4 months ago or so. At that time, both of my grandparents were sick, so I was kind of dealing with that, like getting ready to, make peace with, them leaving Earth. So I was thinking about them dying, and then I had this experience. So the combination of that was a little overwhelming at that time. And what else? So I kept hearing this song in my head, and it went kind of like, "This is all an illusion. There is no you or I. We are all love." But it was a very distinct melody and sound, like it was an actual song. So I kept asking the host and the shaman, and I was asking him. I was like, "Oh, what song were you playing?" And then eventually they sent me a song, and I did remember that song. But then, and I remember him singing a song in Spanish. But then there was another song that apparently they never played, that it never existed. And I'm like, are they messing with me? Was this song being played, or was I hearing this in my head? And it's kind of crazy, because this past week I just had the privilege to partake in another 5-MeO DMT ceremony. And I'm not going to really talk about, I just wanted to share my initial experience. I don't want to, share, this experience also, because it's just too much. But I'll say this one thing. What happened was, what I experienced the second time was I heard the same exact song. And once again, nobody was playing the song. The song does not exist. I have looked for it. It sounds like a Beatles song. And the lyrics are, "This is all an illusion. There is no you or I. We are all love." With a very distinct melody and sound that, it leaves me, so I would forget it. But there was moments like, I had a float the day after, and that's when it came back to me, and I'm hearing it in my head, and I'm like, this is like an actual song. Like, it feels like it's somewhere on an MP3 somewhere. Like, somebody made the song. Like, it exists. How could I be hearing the song? And I couldn't find the song. They never played the song. This song is just in my head. So to me, it's like, this is a song that's being transmitted from somebody, or from something, or from a higher force, or from the universe, that I'm hearing. But it's so vivid. And the sound, the melody, the instruments, the emotion. And this song starts to play as soon as I feel this experience that, wow, this is all an illusion. That's exactly the feeling you get. Like, wow, this is not real. This is the truth. This is the truth. We are all one. We're all part of one. And, we're separated by this human experience, this experience where we have egos, and we think we're all individuals, but really we're a part of a greater whole, part of this divine consciousness. And that's the great truth, and that's the great experience that I had with this 5-MeO DMT. And really, the song is just, that's the thing that I want to not think about it too much, because the more I think about it, I'm just like, this is insane. How am I hearing this song? It's so vivid and it's so distinct. And I guess if I do it a third time and I hear it again, that's just going to solidify it even more, how insane and how undeniable this experience is, and unexplainable. And just, so, I kind of told you guys what it is. What can it do? That's another thing I wanted to talk about. What is the purpose of using such a medicine or psychedelic substance such as 5-MeO DMT? And the first thing I want to say, this is unlike any other psychedelic drugs. This is not, by any means, is this a recreational substance. This is not something you do to have fun. It can be very uncomfortable and very unpleasant. And to me, this substance, it puts you in face with the truth. It makes you face the truth of the universe. At least that's what it did for me. And it just kind of shows you how the ego is just a game, how it's just an illusion, and how we're so attached to it. And I think the uncomfortable part of it is the fact that we don't want to let go of that identity of who we are and of our ego. So that can be very uncomfortable for people. And, I believe a lot of people experience that. If you resist, that's the problem. You really have to let go. And another way I would explain is kind of like just jumping off a cliff and having faith that you're not going to die, that you're going to come back and you're going to be fine. That's kind of how it is. Like once you take that hit, you jumped off that cliff. And until it wears off, you're flying down through the air. And you could bug out and have all this anxiety, go crazy. You could just let go and just enjoy the ride. Some of the benefits of using 5-MeO-DMT is you get a crazy energy reset. So if you feel stuck in your life, you feel like your energy isn't flowing right, if you feel like you have some limiting beliefs, or you just maybe some depression, things like that, it could really help reset that. It could really help break through that. It has been shown to help with addiction. So people that struggle with addiction to certain substances, having a mystical experience like this can prove very helpful. It can make people change their lives drastically, because it kind of, your whole life kind of flashes by you, and it just kind of shows you what's really important in life, and that's the love. It's the love towards yourself. It's the love towards others. It's the love towards life. And if you've been living and making poor decisions and not really respecting your body or respecting yourself or respecting others, it will really make you see that clearly. And then when you come back, it's just like, some people find it really hard to go back to old ways. So it could really help with facilitating a change. So safety. And this is the part that I would advise you to research on your own. Because just a disclaimer, don't listen to anything that I say or anybody else on the internet and just go based off of that. Do your own intensive research and see if this is something that you might want to do, or if you consider this safe enough. If the information out there is convincing enough for you that you're willing to do it. And just like anything, it's not without risks, especially 5-MeO-DMT. Out of all these psychedelic substances, this is very powerful. This is not like most psychedelics. It's very powerful, and it's very important that you take the right dose. We don't know if it's toxic at a certain dose and what that dose would be, but we do know that some people, that if they take too big of a dose, they could have some certain health issues, certain issues. They could have like anxiety and panic for weeks after. So it's very important to do it in a safe environment, preferably with a trusted shaman, and to make sure you're doing the proper dose, preferably a smaller dose, and then you could work your way up. But it's, water, if you have too much water, it could kill you. So as with anything, there's a risk with anything that you do. So I would not say this is without risk, and this is not something that you should just jump into without doing research and without having a trusted source. So that's what I would say as far as safety. Although in my research, from what I found, if it is done, if you're somebody who's psychologically, okay, and you're not mixing with any other drugs, you're not taking any other drugs, and you do the right dose in the right setting, then it's completely safe. That's the findings that I found. That's based on my research, but you could do your own research. So this takes me to a quote by Albert Einstein, and he said that reality is merely an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And that's kind of, what I experienced, that it was like, this is really an illusion, but we just can't see it. We can't, in our normal state of consciousness, we can't see that this is just temporary, and that our egos are, temporary, that our body form is temporary. We don't think about death. So it makes you realize that this is all temporary, and that there's something beyond the physical body, and there's a higher power. That's what it made me realize. And this is something I had read in the book, and This is Tryptamine Palace by James Orrock, and I would recommend this book if you want to know more about 5-MeO DMT. I'm actually reading it right now. So one of the things is that I thought that, like, this is the answer to life, and I'm like, give this 5-MeO DMT to anybody, give somebody this toad venom, and they're gonna have this insane mystical experience where they will finally experience God, and they will finally experience what we are beyond our bodies. They will finally come in contact with this ultimate truth of life. But what I realize is that everybody's experience is different. And although a lot of people do experience exactly what I experienced, not everybody's going to experience that. So something that I read from Tryptamine Palace, he writes, it should also be noted that different people experience different levels of entheogenic effect due to their own personal intellectual and spiritual development. Not everyone will have a full mystical experience from smoking 5-MeO DMT. So not everybody has that kind of like insane, mind-blowing, profound experience as I had. But both times that I did it, that's how it was. It was so far, it's been the most incredible thing that I've done in my life. And it's such a major shift in the way, you think. And another thing that I will say that I want to talk about a little bit is integrating. Is how do you use, it's not just using these plant medicines and these psychedelics, it's how you're able to integrate them into regular life. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, because we get so caught up in that other world. You're kind of like, oh, I just want to go back there, or like, oh, all of this is bullshit. Like that's the real truth, and we're kind of stuck in this illusion. So this is another quote from Tryptamine Palace, and he wrote, one of the most difficult things about the tryptamine experience is the more you believe in the veracity of your experience, the more difficult so-called normal reality becomes. And this is something I definitely struggled with after my first 5-MeO DMT experience, because it's like you feel like you've encountered this profound truth, and it feels so real. It feels realer than normal waking state of consciousness life and regular life. Like, it really feels that real that it's beyond this. So as you believe in that, it's like you're just like, oh, like, how do I deal with this? So my second time doing that, I kind of ran into those feelings the last couple of days also. Like, it's like, damn, like, I'm over here, and like, that's the real truth. It's like, so for me, it's like, how can I take that experience and integrate it back into normal, real life, quote unquote, real life? How do I integrate it back? And for me, it's what messages did you get? What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself? And from, I think this is something that it can show a lot of people, but for me, it shows that how much resistance I have, and how hard it is for me to let go and accept, because it really makes you, it kind of forces you, like, you're either going to accept or you're going to struggle. And when you resist it, which I think I did both times, I resisted it, it's very uncomfortable, and it kind of shows you, like, you need to let go. And like, some of your suffering and some of the things that are frustrating you in life is because you're not accepting. It's because you're resisting. And it kind of makes me see that. And then it also kind of makes me see some of my flaws, like when I'm a little too judgmental towards other people maybe. And then it's the ultimate truth that we are all loved, that we are all one. And it's like the way you speak so something I got from the second time I did it was that there is only one, there is only you, it's only your life. So the way you treat somebody else, like, they're just a reflection of you. Everybody's a reflection of each other. So the way you treat somebody else, it's like, when you're speaking to somebody, pretend you're speaking to yourself. It's like you're talking to yourself, in a sense. It's like you should treat everybody the way you want people to treat you, and you should love everybody the way you want people to love you, and the way you should love yourself. And this is really important, and it's also teaching me to kind of just flow with life and understand that there's more to it than we think, and there's an energy dynamic that's beyond logic and beyond comprehension. And it's amazing. And it's just learning to let go and not resist and kind of just flow with the universe and, pay attention to the signs. It's really amazing. So that's some of the ways that I am trying to integrate and not get so lost in that world, like, oh, damn, like that's the truth, I'm stuck over here. No, this is a gift. Life, the human experience is a gift. And I think 5-MeO DMT helps us appreciate it. It could teach you how to appreciate life a lot better and how to live life a lot better. So I think it's a very beneficial plant medicine. I think it can help a lot of people. And just do your own research, though. Don't listen to me. Do your own research and see if this might be something for you. So guys, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me about this, if you're interested in 5-MeO DMT or any other plant medicines or psychedelics, please reach out to me, message me. I would love to talk. You can pick my brain about some of my experiences and what I know. I'm still learning a lot. I'm still kind of a baby in my spiritual growth, but I am having profound shifts, and these plant medicines are really helping me a lot. So thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Stay connected with me, and I'll be back real soon with some more awesome, profound content. Peace and love.